safe, right? As if power's somehow going to forget about you, right? I think, and as the late Zygmunt Bauman said, there's no 20th century solutions to 21st century problems. We need to think in more expansive global terms, because the problems of the 21st century are global by definition, and whether we like it or not, power flows across borders, and people less so, but power does. And I think that's kind of the situation we're in. If we simply believe that the nation state's going to rescue us, we're sadly mistaken. And I think because the environment doesn't care for national borders, terrorism doesn't care for national borders, all the problems, war doesn't care for national borders, and I think that's the situation we're in. Of course, we need to recognize, and this is not about creating a universal model for the world, it is to understand the subtleties and the brilliance and the beautifulness of local differences. And it's not about homogenizing the world, that's a different project. It's about recognizing that people should be self-governing locally, but have a global ethics that realizes that we live on a shared planet together, and it's a precarious planet. And how can we create an ethical sensibility which is connecting people, which doesn't seek to destroy difference, which is what fascism does.
I like that. That sounds good. Hold on a minute, write that down. So there's a local democratic power, but there is a globalized sense of ethics, or edicts that we can sort of follow and commit to. I suppose as soon as you start to establish an ideal, though it requires a degree of government, and probably by your own diagnostic tools, somewhere along the line is implicit violence. It's not like I want to oppose this idea as soon as it's emerged, because I think that's fantastic. I feel that that's precisely what's required, that the people wouldn't care so much about immigration or a tax on fuel or enmity among the people that share the same social class as them, if they had a real meaningful engagement with the power in their lives.
Well, there's an important point in terms of, I think one of the best books ever written on violence was by Frantz Fanon, and it's called The Wretched of the Earth. And I think the lesson of Fanon, it's not why does a revolution happen, but what happens the day after the revolution. And Fanon says, often actually everything changes, so everything remains the same. We go back to the old modalities of power, the old structures of power, and also in that process we author new forms of violence, right? So, and I think that's the real difficulty of history. What can appear a radical movement in one period can be very entrenched and puritanical and dominating and hierarchical in another moment. And the challenge for us is to recognize there's no end state which is utopia. It's a constant struggle to retain ethical integrity. Ethics is not something which you have in kind of the perfect state of affairs. When you walk into this room, there's a constant ethical interaction, and in every conversation, every shared engagement, you have to be aware of those ethical sensibilities. And I think that's the understanding of the political which I would cling to, is that it's a process, and a process in which you always have to be mindful of shamefully compromising with power, the lurking potential for fascism, for any revolutionary movement.